Chapter 3. Falling in Love. She showed up at my office without an appointment and asked my assistant if she could see me for just 5 minutes. I'd known Rachel for 18 years. She was 36 and had never married. From time to time, she had made appointments with me to discuss a particular difficulty in one of her dating relationships. She was by nature a concise, caring person, so it was completely out of character for her to show up at my office unannounced. I thought there must be some terrible crisis for Rachel to come without an appointment. I told my assistant to show her in, and I fully expected to see her burst into tears and tell me some tragic story as soon as the door was closed. Instead, she practically skipped into my office, beaming with excitement. "How are you today, Rachel?" I asked. "Great," she said. "I've never been better in my life. I'm getting married." "You are?" I said. "To whom and when?" "His name is Ben," she said. "We are getting married in September." "That's exciting. How long have you been dating?" "3 weeks." "I know it's crazy, Dr. Chapman. After all the people have dated and the number of times I came so close to getting married, I can't believe it myself, but I know Ben is the one for me." From the first date, we both knew it. Of course, we didn't talk about it on the first night, but 1 week later, he asked me to marry him. I knew he was going to ask me, and I knew I was going to say yes. I've never felt this way before. You know about the relationships that I've had through the years and the struggles I've had. In every relationship, something was not right. I never felt at peace about marrying any of them, but I know that Ben is the right one. By this time, Rachel was rocking back and forth in her chair, giggling and saying, "I know it's crazy, but I'm so happy. I have never been this happy in my life." What has happened to Rachel? She has fallen in love. In her mind, Ben is the most wonderful man she has ever met. He is perfect in every way. He will make the ideal husband. She thinks about him day and night. The facts that Ben has been married twice before, has 3 children, and has had 3 jobs in the past year are trivial to Rachel. She is happy and she is convinced that she is going to be happy forever with Ben. She is in love. Most of us enter marriage by the way of the in love experience. We meet someone whose physical characteristics and personality traits create enough electrical shock to trigger out love alert system. The bells go off and we set in motion the process of getting to know the person. The first step may be sharing a hamburger or steak, depending on our budget, but our real interest is not in the food. We are on a quest to discover love. Could this warm, tingly feeling I have inside be the real thing? Sometimes we lose the tingles on the first date. We find out that he spends time on crackpot websites or she attended 6 colleges and the tingles run right out our toes. We want no more hamburgers with them. Other times, however, the tingles are stronger after the burger than before. We arrange for a few more together experiences, and before long, the level of intensity has increased to the point where we find ourselves saying, "I think I'm falling in love." Eventually, we are convinced that it is the real thing, and we tell the other person, hoping the feeling is reciprocal. If it isn't, things cool off a bit, or we redouble our efforts to impress and eventually win the love of our beloved. When it is reciprocal, we start talking about marriage because everyone agrees that being in love is the necessary foundation for a good marriage. The Anteroom of Heaven. At its peak, the in love experience is euphoric. We are emotionally obsessed with each other. We go to sleep thinking of one another. When we rise, that person is the first thought on our minds. We long to be together. Spending time together is like playing in the afternoon in the anteroom of heaven. When we hold hands, it seems as if our blood flows together. We could kiss forever if we didn't have to go to school or work. When we embrace, time seems to stop. The person who is in love, we will call her Jen, has the illusion that her beloved is perfect. Her best friend can see the flaws. It bothers her how he talks to Jen sometimes, but Jen won't listen. Her mother, noting the young man seems unable to hold a steady job, keeps her concerns to herself but asks polite questions about Ryan's plans. Our dreams before marriage are of marital bliss. We are going to make each other supremely happy. Other couples may argue and fight, but not us. We love each other. Of course, We're not totally naive. We know intellectually that we will eventually have differences, but we are certain that we will discuss those differences openly. One of us will always be willing to make concessions and we will reach agreement. It's hard to believe anything else when you are in love. We have been led to believe that if we are really in love, it will last forever. We will always have the wonderful feelings that we have at this moment. Nothing could ever come between us. Nothing will ever overcome our love for each other. We are caught up in the beauty and charm of the other's personality. Our love is the most wonderful thing we have ever experienced. We observe that some married couples seem to have lost that feeling, but it will never happen to us. Maybe they didn't have the real thing, we reason. Unfortunately, the eternality of the in love experience is fiction, not fact. The late psychologist Dr. Dorothy Tanoff conducted long range studies on the in love phenomenon. After studying scores of couples, she concluded that the average lifespan of a romantic obsession is 2 years. If it is a secretive love affair, it may last a little longer. Eventually, however, we all descend from the clouds and plant our feet on earth again. Our eyes are opened and we see the warts of the other person. Her endearing quirks are now merely annoying. His sharp sense of humor now wounds. Those little bumps we overlooked when we were in love now become huge mountains. Reality intrudes. Welcome to the real world of marriage, where hairs are always on the sink and little white spots covers the mirror. Where discussions center not on where should we eat tonight but why didn't you get milk. It is a world where bills and in-laws and jobs and children all clamor for our attention. A world where routine and resentment can silently eat away at the love we once had. In this world, a look can hurt and a word can crush. Intimate lovers can become enemies and marriage a battlefield. What happened to the in love experience, alas, it was but an illusion by which we were tricked into singing our names on the dotted line for better or for worse. No wonder so many have come to curse marriage and the partner whom they once loved. After all, if we were deceived, we have a right to be angry. Did we really have the real thing? I think so. The problem was faulty information. The bad information was the idea that the in love obsession would last forever. We should have known better. A casual observation should have taught us that if people remained obsessed, we would all be in serious trouble. The shock waves would rumble through business, industry, church, education, and the rest of the society. Why? Because people who are in love lose interest in other pursuits. That is why we call it obsession. The college student who falls head over heels in love sees his grades tumbling. It is difficult to study when you are in love. Tomorrow you have a test on the War of 1812, but who cares about the War of 1812? When you are in love, everything else seems irrelevant. A man said to me, Dr. Chapman, my job is disintegrating. What do you mean? I asked. I met this girl, fell in love, and I can't get a thing done. I can't keep my mind on my job. I spend my day dreaming about her. The euphoria of the in love state gives us the illusion that we have an intimate relationship. We feel that we belong to each other. We believe we can conquer all problems. We feel altruistic towards each other. As one young man said about his fiancée, I can't conceive of doing anything to hurt her. My only desire is to make her happy. I would do anything to make her happy. Such obsession gives us the false sense that our egocentric attitudes have been eradicated and we have become sort of a Mother Teresa, willing to give anything for the benefit of our lover. The reason we can do that so freely is that we sincerely believe that our lover feels the same way towards us. We believe that she is committed to meeting our needs, that he loves us as much as we love him and would never do anything to hurt us. That thinking is always fanciful. Not that we are insincere in what we think and feel, but we are unrealistic. We fail to reckon with the reality of human nature. By nature, we are egocentric. Our worlds revolve around us. None of us is totally altruistic. The euphoria of the in love experience only gives us that illusion. Once the experience of falling in love has run its natural course, remember the average in love experience lasts 2 years. We will return to the world of reality and begin to assert ourselves. He will express his desires, but his desires will be different from hers. He wants sex, but she is too tired. He dreams of buying a new car, but she flatly says we can't afford it. She would like to visit her parents, but he says, I don't like spending so much time with your family. Little by little, the illusion of intimacy evaporates, and the individual desires, emotions, thoughts, and behavior patterns assert themselves. They are two individuals. Their minds have not melded together, and their emotions mingled only briefly in the ocean of love. Now the waves of reality begin to separate them. They fall out of love, and at that point, either they withdraw, separate, divorce, and set off in search of a new in love experience, or they begin the hard work of learning to love each other without the euphoria of the in love obsession. Some couples believe that the end of the in love experience means they have only two options: resign themselves to a life of misery with their spouse, or jump ship and try again. Our generation has opted for the latter, whereas an earlier generation often chose the former. Before we automatically conclude that we have made the better choice, perhaps we should examine the data. The divorce rate for second marriages is higher than the divorce rate of first marriages. The divorce rate in third marriages is higher still. Apparently, the prospect of a happier marriage the second and the third time around is not substantial. From in love to real love. Research seems to indicate that there is a third and better alternative. We can recognize the in love experience for what it was, a temporary emotional high, and now pursue real love with our spouse. That kind of love is emotional in nature but not obsessional. It is a love that unites reason and emotion. It involves an act of the will and requires discipline, and it recognizes the need for personal growth. Our most basic emotional need is not to fall in love but to be genuinely loved by another. To know a love that grows out of reason and choice, not instinct. I need to be loved by someone who chooses to love me, who sees in me something worth loving. That kind of love requires effort and discipline. It is the choice to expend energy in an effort to benefit the other person, knowing that if his or her life is enriched by your effort, you too will find a sense of satisfaction, the satisfaction of having genuinely loved another. It does not require the euphoria of the in love experience. In fact, true love cannot begin until the in love experience has run its course. We cannot take credit for the kind and generous things we do while under the influence of the obsession. We are pushed and carried along by an instinctual force that goes beyond our normal behavior patterns. But if once we return to the real world of human choice, we choose to be kind and generous, and that is real love. The emotional need for love must be met if we are to have emotional health. Married adults long to feel affection and love from their spouses. We feel secure when we are assured that our mate accepts us, wants us, and is committed to our well being. During the in love stage, we felt all of those emotions. It was heavenly while it lasted. Our mistake was in thinking it would last forever. But that obsession was not meant to last forever. In the textbook of marriage, it is but the introduction. The heart of the book is rational, volitional love. That is the kind of love to which the sages have always called us. It is intentional. That is good news to the married couple who have lost all of their in love feelings. If love is a choice, then they have the capacity to love after the in love obsession has died and they have returned to the real world. That kind of love begins with an attitude, a way of thinking. Love is the attitude that says, I'm married to you and I choose to look out for your interests. Then the one who chooses to love will find appropriate ways to express that decision. But it seems so sterile. Some may contend love is an attitude with appropriate behavior. Where are the shooting stars, the balloons, the deep emotions? What about the spirit of anticipation, the twinkle of the eye, the electricity of a kiss, the excitement of sex? What about the emotional security of knowing that I am number one in his or her mind? That is what this book is all about. How do we meet each other's deep emotional need to feel loved? If we can learn that and choose to do it, then the love we share will be exciting beyond anything we ever felt when we were infatuated. For many years now, I have discussed the five emotional love languages in my marriage seminars and in private counseling sessions. Thousands of couples will attest to the validity of what you are about to read. My files are filled with letters from people whom I have never met saying, "A friend loaned me one of your DVDs on love languages and it has revolutionized our marriage." We had struggled for years trying to love each other, but our efforts had missed each other emotionally. Now that we are speaking the appropriate love languages, the emotional climate of our marriage has radically improved. When your spouse's emotional love tank is full and he feels secure in your love, the whole world looks bright and your spouse will move out to reach his highest potential in life. But when the love tank is empty and he feels used but not loved, the whole world looks dark and he will likely never reach his potential for good in the world. So, in the next five chapters, I will explain the five emotional love languages and then, in chapter 9, illustrate how discovering your spouse's primary love language can make your efforts at love most productive. Your turn. Can you pinpoint a time in your marriage when reality set in? How did this affect your relationship for better or worse?